On this episode, we talk about Stardust betraying his brother, Cesaro's social media nightmare, our thoughts on NXT Rival, and our predictions for WWE Fastlane. All of this and more on Byte That. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 78 of Byte That, the semi-somewhat, maybe, international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is winning the sexy lottery. My name is Ryan McNulty. I come from Boston, Massachusetts, filling in as host today for one who couldn't make it here this week. And of course, with us as always, from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Mr. Keith Poshik. How you doing, Keith?
Always, not to throw myself under the bus, but always, but yes. Not connected to winning the sexy lottery, but one is gone this week.
It's true.
So that makes me sad.
I was out last week. Only the second time I've ever missed a show. We have just had a ridiculous amount of snow, Canada-level snow, and we have missed so many days of work around here that, I had to actually work a full day the latter half of the day because...
So do you still get paid even though it's like a mandatory shutdown?
I'm on salary, so I guess.
Oh, okay. So
but the way it worked is that day, Tuesday, when we usually record the podcast, is I actually had to come in at 12, but everybody's getting so behind from missing all the other days that we actually worked a full day to 8:30, thus missing the recording because I figured nobody else wanted to be up till like 1 a.m. working on the podcast. So thus I did miss last week's, but you guys did a pretty good job. I listened the next day.
Oh, thank you.
And the show must go on as it is without one today.
And being Canadian, I only half feel sorry for you.
Exactly. But it is getting to the point that we've gotten so much snow in Boston that Keith is feeling some sympathy because I think we actually have more snow than them right now.
Yes, but I will still argue that it is colder here. And that's where my sympathy dies.
You completely win there. Actually, on the radio this morning, they were playing, the song The Sound of Silence? There was a parody of it about all the snow called Grounds for Violence. And they were playing it on the radio, and...
Why, do you guys riot during snow?
No, but the funny thing is I looked up the song, and it actually was made by people in Winnipeg. Like, it was some parody about all the snow they get, and it was from, like, a Winnipeg station or something like that. So.
Interesting. I wonder if it's the station never mind. Carry on.
I don't know. Just in case it's a competitor, I'm not going to mention their name or whatever.
Indeed.
Moving on to wrestling.
Yes, this is a wrestling podcast, not a forecast podcast.
Exactly.
We should totally make a podcast called The Forecast, where we talk about weather.
I'm sure that would be super interesting for maybe anyone who has a remote interest in meteorology and nobody else. But anyway, wrestling. Before the actual wrestling, let's talk a little bit about all this hacking going on. And we know Solomon Crow is supposed to debut this week on NXT, but who knew that he would take the gimmick to heart so truly?
No kidding. This has potential to be the best debut in the history of wrestling.
So we have Seth Rollins getting hacked last week, but that was not necessarily hacked, more or less people he knew who knew his account information.
More revenge than hack.
Or at least had access to his computer.
Indeed.
But yesterday, I believe this happened yesterday, once again, the hack occurring on a Monday, we have Cesaro's Twitter getting hacked, posting a whole bunch of tweets. Keith has a few of them. Just read the appropriate ones. Obviously, we're a clean podcast now, just to give an example of what was said.
Indeed. So it started out somewhat realistic, where he just tweets, "Everybody get hashtag push Cesaro trending." And since that, it basically went into a miserable downward spiral. First he started pretending to be Cesaro, saying "Hey, I just found out today that I won't ever get a chance at a major title. I've pretty much had it with the WWE. Even the Rosebuds get more TV time than me," which might, it might even add up. And then I think it's time to get pushed, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes completely off the rails, where he wishes cancer upon, quote unquote, the old man, and that he's sick of everything. He doesn't want to take this BS anymore, so on and so forth. So, the beginning part, it was almost believable that, hey, maybe this is Cesaro kind of ranting. But once you get to the whole wishing cancer on somebody part, that's starting to seem a little more unrealistic.
Yeah, obviously it gets to the point where it just sounds way too much like, internet wrestling, an angry, childish internet wrestling fan just ranting about somebody.
Yeah, like the fact, here's one of the tweets. And why did they give me this gimmick and this awful theme music? They're constantly burying me. I don't think that's something that somebody would say.
Yeah, it's just way too whiny and stupid to ever sound like the actual Cesaro, especially the fact that he's being featured on pay-per-view this month. It doesn't really...
For a major title.
Exactly. It doesn't really seem like this would be the appropriate time for Cesaro to go and do something stupid like this. So just Indeed. Crazy that kind of 2 weeks in a row we've had these sort of hacking situations. You think anything is going to come of this?
See, this is the part where you never know, because Seth Rollins, nothing is supposed to come out of the Seth Rollins thing, but now you wonder, Cesaro's a little lower down the card. Maybe he does face repercussion for this sort of thing. And it kind of leads into this bigger question of, is there going to come a point where WWE just bails out of social media? Because of all the good it can do, there's also bad that can happen from it as well,
exactly.
Right?
I mean, hacks have been happening a lot recently, not just in wrestling, but, there's the whole Sony hacks and all that. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal. We look at this like, oh, there was 2 hacks on 2 consecutive Mondays. But if you actually look at each incident here, they're, isolated incidents.
They're very different.
Exactly. It wasn't the same person doing this, unless Seth Rollins' fiance is just a pro hacker now and just felt like trolling Cesaro. But I don't think that's the case.
She got in with Solomon Crowe, and then now he's teaching her all he knows.
I mean, it's obvious Cesaro did not do these tweets, unless they're going super underground with Solomon Crowe here, being super meta and having him do all this. I mean, that would actually be pretty impressive, but I really don't think that's the case.
I would believe it up until the point where they wish very, very negative things upon their boss.
I don't know, though. Vince, you never know. He wanted to do an incest storyline, so anything is possible.
Yeah, I guess so.
So speaking of incest, let's talk about the Rhodes family.
Oh,
no,
really?
No, I'm sorry. I had to do that horrible segue. That's not true at all. But we do want to talk about the Rhodes family. So
it's not getting dusty in there.
So on Monday Night Raw, we had Dusty Rhodes, we had Cody Rhodes, and we had Goldust. Wait, what did I say? Oh, Stardust.
Dusty.
Of course, he's not Cody. He is Stardust.
No, you said Dusty, Cody.
And Goldust. I said everybody.
And Dustin. All right,
he doesn't want to be called Cody. So let's call him Stardust.
All right.
So first of all, were you surprised they didn't really do kind of an in-ring promo?
Well, yes and no, because are they really going to bring Dusty out there just for that? And there was no reason for it to be out in the ring. There would be no gain to it being out in the ring, if you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, it's a little more for crowd reaction and stuff. I mean, Stardust had Stardust and Goldust had their match.
But would that take away from what happened later if Dusty Rhodes was out there? Would they be more focused on, hey, it's the American dream, other than, oh, well, Dusty's just here?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just felt a little forced if Dusty then came out later. But to recap, we had Goldust and Stardust in a match against, oh my god, and why am I already forgetting? No, who do they keep losing to? Oh, the New Day.
They fought the New Day. Yep. All right. That's how memorable they are.
They've repeatedly lost. I'm a little tired. Keith's a little tired. We're going to forget things. But they fought a New Day and they lost once again. And Stardust finally...
It finally happened.
Yes, finally officially turned on Goldust. I mean, a storyline that's kind of been waiting to happen for years now. He officially attacked him and then had an excellent promo backstage with Dusty. basically saying that, Cody is dead and that he is Stardust now. What did you think of this?
I think it was awesome. It's kind of what we talked about last week about how they're going to kind of bring him deeper into this Stardust hole. And we even mentioned how like now the crowd has something to chant and Cody, Cody. So that's totally something that they could do now that Cody said, oh yeah, Stardust is dead. So I'm looking forward to it.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of people were questioning, okay, after this feud, what does Cody do? Can Stardust live on post this feud? And I think if you do this sort of delusional path, it has a lot of potential to live on. There's rumors that this could be even, like a retirement match for Goldust or something like that, which I think would also be really cool and fitting. And so I guess, do you think this is a last-minute addition to Fastlane, or do you think this is being saved for Mania?
I think it's going to be the WrestleMania pre-show, in complete honesty, or if they need a filler match somewhere down the card.
Even if it ends up being like a retirement match for Goldust, or do you think they would bump it up the pre-show if that was the case?
No.
Really? You don't think they would do that in respect to Goldust?
Perhaps. But it's WrestleMania. There's going to be a lot of other big matches. I mean this in no disrespect to Goldust, but didn't they announce like Christian's retirement on a pre-show a couple months ago?
It wasn't a retirement match, though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Maybe they do bump it up the card a little bit because of that.
I would hope after all Goldust has given and, he has been around for so long, in and out of the company. He's given a lot. He's paved the way for a lot of more risque type gimmicks.
True. But I do see it being a WrestleMania match, to go back to your question.
Yes. I mean, I think at this point, they're not ready to just kind of throw it together. This was the go-home show to Fastlane. Of course, we're going to be giving our predictions a little bit later on that. And, things just kind of happen. I think they kind of want to let things marinate a little bit before they have it culminate in a match. But I'm sure they'll have some backstage interaction or something will happen at Fastlane.
Dusty will probably be back, maybe even for Fastlane. Like, hey guys, we can fix this. Kind of like a 3 Live Crew style thing.
Exactly, going on Bullet Bob.
Exactly. Then they can, build it up for a couple weeks and lead it into WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of tag teams with a little dissension between each other, we have the Miz and Mizdow. Now, they've kind of had this new dynamic recently since Mizdow became the, no longer the stunt double, but more of like an assistant.
The butler.
Yes, a butler.
Style thing.
I don't know if you guys didn't really touch on this last week. Did you?
Great question. No idea. Let's pretend we did.
Let's just keep going. So now they kind of have this new dynamic where, he gets the director's chair out, the Miz, he sits in it, Mizdow's trying to have a match and he keeps interrupting him for, whatever. Oh, he's got a spot on his glasses or he's got to shine his shoes. What do you like about this dynamic versus what he was doing before?
There isn't really much I don't like about it. I mentioned it on Twitter, but I think this is the best feud the WWE has going right now. And just think for a moment about the moment where Damien Sandow finally snaps and then like turns on the Miz. That's going to be such an incredible pop and that stuff. And they've just built this so well. And it's weird to say that I'm looking forward to a match between the Miz and Damien Sandow, but totally am.
No, I really am too. I mean, I think it's just been given the proper treatment of, it's on Raw every week. It's consistent. It's evolved, since the beginning. It is slowly, new things have happened and it's like steadily become something. And I just think that consistency and just, the crowd getting behind Mizdow and they keep teasing it. Like you want Mizdow to, to win a match or to whatever, but he keeps being held back so that when he finally actually breaks out, it's going to be awesome.
And not only that, but this feud is also an example of not everything in wrestling needs to be right now. It needs to happen this week, because if you really think about it, it's been a good 6-8 months since this whole thing started.
Has it already?
Well, Well, they were around for a while before, like, were they around in Survivor Series? I believe so, right?
Yeah, I think
even
so.
Beyond that.
We're at least going back 4 to 5 months, possibly longer. I can't quite remember. Sometime, I think, in the fall, it might have started.
Yes. Like that, we're getting close to the 6-month point on that, at least. So it's this nice slow development. It's not like a big main feud, but it's something that's been consistent for a long time, and it's been awesome.
Mid-card feud.
Exactly. And when was the last time we had that?
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people would have thought, The Miz and Damian Sandow would kind of have this chemistry or whatever. And The Miz...
And there wasn't even a title involved.
Exactly. I mean, sure, the tag team titles have been in the mix, but it's not...
that wasn't the main,
exactly,
the main focal point.
It's not really about that. And just I think this is probably, from what I've seen, granted, there's some years of The Miz I didn't see, I think this has been like The Miz's best work,
Easily.
And same with Sandow. Obviously, Sandow is having... his best moments too right now because he has never been so over. And, this is a little scarier for Mizdow than maybe Stardust, where we're saying, what's life after this feud? We don't really know with the Mizdow, but, it doesn't really matter right now. It's kind of, they have to have this feud end, the right way. And this is also one I'm going to guess that is being saved for Mania.
Totally, but... does there have to be life after this feud? Because really, that question can apply to both Mizdow and The Miz. Like, what happens after this? So why don't they just keep it going after Mania? Like, it just has its own twists and turns and
well, it can
just
definitely
continues.
keep going for several matches. But there's going to be a point where, they're going to have to feud with other people. And, The Miz can keep his Hollywood gimmick mostly intact, I think. And he doesn't really have to change much, but, Sandow's gimmick is 100% about The Miz.
Yeah,
so
that is
what
true.
happens when he's no longer associated in any way with The Miz? And that's a big question. And
that's an interesting question.
We don't really know because, we assume he's going to be a super over babyface by the end of this. And you really hope that he's going to have something kind of ready to go afterwards, but we don't really know.
Maybe he just stays Mizdow forever, even with nothing to do with the Miz.
I think eventually the luster is going to wear off, and that's what worries me. But you know what? Let's just enjoy the ride for now because we can't really do anything about it except appreciate that this is the best mid-card feud in recent memory. So on the trend of tag teams, a lot of stuff about tag teams this week. Primetime players are back.
Woo.
Why are you so underwhelmed, Keith?
It's cool that they brought them back because Titus O'Neil went nowhere. Darren Young went nowhere. So why not just put them back together? But what reason is there to believe that they're not just going to go nowhere together as the primetime players? That's why I'm not very excited about it. Like, it's cool. We got another tag team. They did really good tag team work together. So why not? But what's going to happen?
I honestly don't think much is going to happen, but I think they just needed to give them a little segment of bringing them back together. They really like to gyp Darren Young. He had that return where he was just standing next to John Cena, and then, he comes back and he's with just a random jobber whose name doesn't even get announced. Then, Titus to the rescue. It was
generic Khan number 3, as I saw on Twitter.
Yes, exactly. Titus to the rescue, and it's the primetime players are back. That's all they really needed. I think they wanted to do something with Titus, and then it just never took off, or it just wasn't the right time, or whatever. So I think this is right for them.
Yeah, and you have to keep in mind that they also interrupted and beat down the Ascension, right? So one would think that would lead to believe that they're just going to get fed to the Ascension immediately, right?
Oh, they absolutely are. And I don't think much is going to be made of them for a while. But I think it's better that they are back together. They might just kind of be like how the Usos were for a while, where they just kind of laid dormant as kind of a jobber team until eventually it was time for their push. But, Titus isn't getting any younger, but I think...
But they were already that tag team, and now they're just going back to being that tag team.
Yes, you got to build them up again, to be honest. I mean, they have tons of potential with the primetime players, and I think if it's right to bring them back, yes, they're going to be a jobber team for a little while, but when you need kind of a new feud to come in with a tag team, I think they'll be, a time will be right for them, and I think they are just better together than if you tried to build them up as singles guys, because they're just going to get lost in the shuffle, and they just have a much better chance of succeeding right now if they're together.
And rest in peace, Slater Gator.
Yes, poor Heath Slater. Someday something will work out for you, but until then, we're sorry. But you know what? I love Heath Slater. I really wish they had more for him, but...
Yeah, Heath Slater has a nice spot on the Superstars roster.
It's all about just his tag team partners, like, cutting the rug from underneath him, or, either they get released or they go somewhere else. He just gets screwed over, but...
And then he'll get beat up by legends for the next 3-4 months.
It's funny how
and then
people,
he'll find a new tag team partner.
It was, that goes to show how good... of a decision that was, because people still will talk about him getting beat up by legends like 3 years later, even though he hasn't like done anything relevant on TV in forever since then.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's one of 3 remaining members of the Nexus.
Barrett,
Ryback, and Slater.
That is true.
So well, he made it that
Bray
long.
Wyatt?
Well, I don't count that Nexus. That's the bad. Oh, Darren Young, I guess. Kinda. Okay, so maybe there's a couple members of the Nexus left. Never mind. Sorry, Slater. I tried to give you one there.
Clearly, Michael Tarver's blowing up the world right now.
Indeed.
So anyway, let's get on to some...
Speaking of blowing...
We've got... Triple H had a promo... with Sting. I mean, not Sting. I'm sorry, Flair.
He had a
promo about Sting. With Ric Flair. God, what a
surprise appearance
today.
By the Nature Boy. This is going to be like the Byte That We're Half Asleep edition.
We are almost as sloppy as Ric Flair's speech was during the promo.
Pretty much.
But
is that just an ongoing joke now? Like, oh, is that Ric Flair? Is he drunk? Can he like slur?
Is it weird that promo like... now? I love Ric Flair. He's awesome. He's super entertaining. But every time he shows up on TV, I'm thinking like, is he going to be able to like get through this segment without like something going on,
Yeah, it's less of a, oh my God, that's awesome, Ric Flair's here, and more of a, oh my God, Ric Flair's here.
Like, can he make it through his lines without something ridiculous happening? Or just going on a tangent about stories like he did at that video game panel.
Yes. Who's going to get fired? Ric Flair's on TV.
Exactly. So anyway...
but it was pretty good.
Yeah, so the promo I thought was really good because Flair, he's been brought in multiple times for segments and it's felt forced, whether it's just, about a match, John Cena and Brock Lesnar where all the legends are just like, yes, no, or whatever. But Flair actually was relevant. He has a ton of history with Sting.
Yeah, and then we were even joking about it, that it's a Triple H feud, so somebody like Shawn Michaels or somebody has to come in at some point. But this time it was just Ric Flair, and this actually makes sense, like you said, considering all the history that Sting and Flair have together.
No, exactly, and I really think this is going to finally be the time where Shawn Michaels doesn't get pulled into a feud. If anything, maybe we see Flair show up at Mania or something like
They'll have a panel
at
least once. They'll have a panel discussing Sting and Triple H.
Exactly.
And that's where Michaels will show up, and Hulk Hogan and somebody else.
And Flair, I think he pretty much demands that he has to take a bump every time he shows up, I think.
God bless him for doing that.
Exactly. I mean... I think he gets to that point where he just like misses it so much that he just needs, if he can't elbow drop a jacket, like somebody has to push him over or something like that. He has to take a finisher. But nevertheless, I think they did a good job of, selling this feud, Flair just talking about, not to underestimate Sting and basically Triple H saying he is WWE Sting is WCW, and if he would have shown up, he would have drove him out a long time ago.
Yeah. Do you like the way that they're building this? Because I think it's an interesting way how it's turning into this WWE versus WCW, and this is the last guy that Triple H hasn't buried, pretty much, because Goldberg took care of that one. Scott Steiner took care of that one. Kevin Nash took care of that one. Like, this is really the last WCW guy, and Triple H is kind of finishing it up. Do you like the way that they're approaching that?
I hadn't quite thought of it from that exact angle, and the thing, it's funny that I hadn't, because I've always looked at those years, the 2003 through 2000, what was it, like 2002 through 2004, basically, where Triple H, basically beat every top name of WCW that came into the company, and I didn't quite think of it from that angle, but now it makes me nervous. But yeah, as far as how I feel about them building it this way, I'm okay with it. But the fact, the keep mentioning of WCW and stuff does kind of make it feel a little dated. Like it's a little too little too late to be doing this WWE versus WCW thing. And maybe they should be playing more off of just the overall mystique of Sting. Being just there. Him being an intimidating guy, and you can kind of say, oh, he's got history with these guys, and he dominated in his time, and he disappeared for a while.
The part that bugs me about the whole thing is the fact that he's like, yeah, he went to WCW, and then he disappeared. Because that's not the case at all. They're never going to acknowledge where he went. But if somebody doesn't know about it, they can just Google Sting and then find out his entire history from that. Like, there's no real mystique around it.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much fooling nobody by saying he just disappeared. Yeah. There's pretty much anyone, exactly. Everyone's an internet fan now. We've pretty much established that.
Triple H has said it himself.
Exactly. He himself said it. So, why ignore it? It's best just to not ignore the facts. He could have just said, "Oh, he's been everywhere but here." Which I think they might have disappeared. Said that. I don't know.
But last night he's like he disappeared for all these years.
Yeah, maybe just to emphasize more. Oh, he didn't want to come here. Nevertheless, the whole playing up the WCW thing. I mean, you got to mention WCW if you're talking about Sting and you're trying to do this feud. Maybe, like we said, it would be better if you play more on just the mysteriousness and, like the Undertaker factor, the whole intimidation mystique of it all.
Like you straight up Undertakered Sting last week with that promo and the whole messing with the light style thing. So why not just go like all in on that?
Well, because there's another feud that has to be doing that pretty soon. So, that's going to be interesting. We weren't going to talk about this, but obviously Bray Wyatt's been cutting his promos very clear. It's going to lead to something with The Undertaker. We're going to have these two feuds going simultaneously. And no one's really thought about how do we make these not like the exact same thing?
That is interesting. Maybe that's why they're doing all that like mystery stuff now, to get it out of the way for when the Undertaker
it's like,
comes
Sting,
back.
You gotta get all your Undertaker crap out of the way. Because after
get all the mystical stuff. Get all the mystical stuff.
Undertaker's punching in the clock. He's gonna be doing all that crazy stuff.
Our lightning bolt and lights off quota is more than met with this guy.
Get it out of the way now. But, with Bray Wyatt, I think the whole thing with Wyatt also being a dark character, they might be able to go somewhere different with that. And, because, Wyatt isn't going to be intimidated the same way maybe other people have been in the past. But we'll see.
Absolutely
That's interesting. Send us a tweet. How do you think that's going to work out, assuming that they're going to be building those feuds simultaneously leading up to WrestleMania? Because they definitely have to create a different feel for both of them.
It kind of really hits home the point of, does The Undertaker really need to be there this year?
It is a good question. And, if there's an amazing match or an amazing moment that happens between Taker
it'll be more than
and
worth
Wyatt. It'll be more than worth it. And I think, if anything, and I'm sure, down the road, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about this, but if he basically passes the torch to Wyatt, I think that's truly, like concluding the character. We don't have a definitive conclusion to Undertaker.
No,
and
we
he
don't.
deserves one. And it looks like this might be it. But we have plenty of time to talk about that later. So
yes, I will not. Yes. I will save my questions. We will move on now.
Exactly. We will move on to, the main thing for Fastlane. And what a beautiful segue of Reigns.
We just went right through that
and
wall.
D-Bry. Mr. Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan having a match at Fastlane, and the winner takes on Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Yes.
So, what did you think of, first of all, Daniel Bryan on commentary and this sort of new, cocky attitude that he's kind of been sporting?
I really like this Daniel Bryan. I like this whole he's nice to everybody else, but a huge douche to Roman Reigns. It's this new interesting side. It's the whole blending of the face and heel thing where Daniel Bryan's the biggest face in the company up until he doesn't have to be anymore against his opponent style thing. And it's cool. I like it. No,
exactly. And I think, even though both these guys are technically baby faces, they're not getting along. It's not all smiles. It's not, hey, let's have the best man win. No, they have this intensity. They're taking shots at each other.
In a very subtle way, it's turning into this like, hey, yeah, we're both baby faces. I respect you. You respect me. But you need to realize that there's a shot at the title at WrestleMania on the line, so I'm going to do what I need to do to get to that WrestleMania match. I think they're hitting home quite successfully in that respect.
And I really like whenever they do this. This is how The Rock and Austin would interact. They're both huge baby faces, but they're going to talk smack to each other. They're not going to be best friends. It's not going to be, hey, let's tag up together and everything's fine.
Yeah, like Stone Cold would stun The Rock every chance he got and vice versa.
Exactly, and that's why I do really appreciate what they've done with this. I think Reigns and D-Bry do have, really good chemistry, and just like that brawl at the end, just like really selling the intensity of this, that both these guys really want it. They want to main event WrestleMania, and it really makes you buy in.
Quick note, that chair shot that happened during that brawl, even though it was like the biggest no-sell in the history of wrestling, that was the definition of intensity when Reigns just got up and he was like, and went to it. It was awesome. That's exactly. The best no-sell in history.
Be like, oh, he totally no-sold that. But you know what?
But he did it right.
Exactly. There's a time and a place to no-sell things. Nobody complains when, Lesnar no-sells the hell out of,
a broken rib.
A bunch of attitude adjustments, There is a time and a place, and sometimes you have to throw selling a move to the side to tell a better story. And
agreed.
And it worked. Who didn't love the end of that, where it's just a vicious brawl, and nobody can keep these guys apart. It was awesome, and it just made me that much more pumped up for that feud.
Totally. It's going to be a good match at Fastlane. I'm quite looking forward to it.
And speaking of getting pumped up, it's time for this week's
Tweet of the Week!
That it is. In the land of 1,000 segues, we have this week's Tweet of the Week. All right, going back to the well on this one, this week's Tweet of the Week is from WWE Creative Humor at WWE Creative_ish. Why am I going back to the well, I say? Well, it's because these, in my opinion, are the best people on Twitter. People/person, not sure, but it is funny. It is hilarious. If you do not follow these people, go to your Twitter, look them up, WWE Creative_ish. Search them, hit the follow button, you will laugh and you will cry in the good way, and you will have a great old time. I digress. This week's Tweet of the Week is, get the March 2015 Muscle and Fitness with Vince McMahon on the cover, so you can feel bad about how terrible you look compared to him.
Tweet of the Week!
Thank you, Keith, for that somewhat, maybe amazing tweet of the week. And remember, that man is 69 years old. And
he is on the cover of Muscle and Fitness and freaking jacked.
And yes, has a better body than 90% of us, I'm guessing. So hit the gym, folks. I know I need to.
Yep. Make
so
that two of us.
before we get into everything else for the rest of the show, we want to talk about NXT Rival and, of course, our Fastlane NXT Rival. I'm sorry. I get that. It's very hard not to screw that up.
It's very difficult. There's like all these R puns, like Revolution, R Evolution, Rival, our Rival.
Exactly.
It's very hard to keep.
And of course, our Fastlane predictions. But before all that, of course, we always want to remind you, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Byte That Cast. Last week, we put up another roundtable discussion where we talked about what if the WWE Network were to fail. And this Thursday, Fight Night returns. We've got another episode. It's going to be a character who's appeared on many episodes, Mr. Sugar Dandy, facing a man simply known as the Ultimate Banana. If that doesn't raise your curiosity, I don't know what will.
It will be ultimate, to say the least.
Exactly. Fight Night is back, and you'll be able to catch that alternating every Thursday along with roundtable discussions and various other videos. But anyway, let's jump into NXT, the world of NXT. Last Wednesday, we've got NXT Takeover Rival.
Rival.
Yes.
All right.
No A in there. It happened pretty much a year ago from Arrival, so it's very difficult to, decipher the two names. But anyway, NXT Rival. Keith, just your overall impressions of it.
Hell of a show. I mean, it definitely had its ups and it's definitely had its downs, but what a great wrestling product. We kind of touched on it on the show, but the fact that it was a 2-hour concise, here's nothing but wrestling show really made it work. And my lord, did it work.
No, absolutely. The 2 hours, it just felt right.
It totally did.
It felt really right. One, we were, maybe it was like an hour and 15 minutes in where it was just kind of like, oh, well, we got, it was maybe halfway through the women's match and it was like, oh, we just got the main event, right? It just felt like, I was invested the whole time and, it was just the appropriate time for the main event to happen to end the show. Like, exactly. It just didn't feel like it dragged on.
In between the match quality and the length, it was just this perfect storm of a wrestling show.
Exactly. So...
But like we mentioned, it had its low points, so I think we should get those out of the way.
Absolutely. Basically my main point.
Baron Corbin versus Bull Dempsey was an unfortunate match.
Yeah, my overall kind of feeling was that the first half was just, it was imbalanced. The second half was just 3 straight amazing matches, and the first half was kind of just okay. When we had, it was Breeze and, Hideo. Which was a good match. And then from there, it really just kind of...
It sunk for a little bit.
Corbin, we were talking about this while we were watching. You could tell Corbin and Dempsey, they aren't ready for the big leagues yet. They're used to their short matches, and Corbin just looked a little lost in a match going on.
Corbin kind of has the Bill Goldberg effect going on, where he's really good at those couple-minute squash matches, but once you throw in a little bit more, he starts to look a little lost. And I guess Rival just wasn't a good night for Bull either, especially that spot where he was looking for a chair.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't find the chair, and then nothing.
Yeah, just nothing happened there, and it's like, that might seem just like a minuscule thing to a lot of people, but then it just kind of leaves you feeling like an emptiness in the match. You're just like, well, something was supposed to happen.
Something was supposed to happen.
Nothing
here.
did.
And then they were probably like forced to improvise after that point, and it kind of all snowballed and fell apart.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it just felt weak, especially because it was a no DQ match. It just, it didn't.
It wasn't a lot of no DQ style thing.
It just didn't feel that great. Nevertheless, I mean, this is developmental. Sometimes things are like that are going to happen.
It's really easy to forget that NXT is a developmental territory.
Set such a high standard that it's like, if there's one stinker of a match, it's like we feel like, oh my god, it's so bad. But in the end, other matches just made up for it. The tag match was another match that just, it was okay. A lot of botches at the beginning of the show. but it just, nothing too impressive.
It was a Sin Cara match. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
Even though it's a new Sin Cara, the botches stayed the same.
Exactly. And then we're treated to Finn Balor versus Adrian Neville. I mean, this was just insane. The stuff they were pulling off. What was the one where, was it Neville who was sitting in the chair by the barricade and he got kicked?
Yeah, and then Balor just comes full steam at him and kicks him to the barricade.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that was an awesome match. And I think someone was saying that was the first time that they've ever faced each other. Like, even on the indies, they'd never faced each other.
I can't speak to the indies, but I'm pretty sure that was their first one-on-one confrontation in the WWE/NXT.
I think I was listening to an interview with Corey Graves, and he might have mentioned that. I could be wrong, but I believe that might have been their first confrontation.
Still, hell of a match.
Exactly. And then the Divas match, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it just... We were speaking of this a little off the air, but there's... The biggest difference between the WWE and NXT is obvious in the Divas division, just how different those two products are. And in a couple of years, the NXT Divas division is going to be the WWE's Diva division. There's going to be a serious peak in excitement over the Divas division, in my opinion.
I hope you're right. But, we don't know, because we know what happens when you go up to the main roster.
True.
But maybe you can convince Vince McMahon with some excellent matches like that Fatal 4-Way. It was really like the TNA Knockouts division that kind of first showed me that, if you give women a chance, that they can put on amazing matches. And
totally.
It's awesome that NXT is giving that an even almost more mainstream view now, in just how awesome that all those competitors are.
Like, it was a very simple spot, but my favorite spot of the entire night happened in that Divas Division match, where it was the finish to the match where Sasha Banks had Charlotte in the crossface and then just rolled her over into a pin. Like, how often do you see stuff like that happen? It's simple but super effective.
Exactly. And I mean, that's like kind of a ring psychology thing that, most people don't kind of think about.
And it was in a Divas match.
Exactly. Like, you never see someone, they're distracted being in a submission and then you go right into
They tap out or they don't, pretty much, yeah.
Exactly. No, it was awesome. And then, of course, we had Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in what was a very interesting match. It started kind of even and then just ended with the destruction of Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn. Have you noticed that every Sami Zayn match follows a formula now, pretty much, where Sami just gets obliterated and then potentially comes back and then wins?
No, exactly. He almost has like a Dolph Ziggler effect, almost to the nth degree.
Yeah, totally.
Every single main event he has, it's like he's basically dying. He's just completely out of it. The ref's always trying to stop the match. And
he's basically the opposite of John Cena.
Exactly. And it's either he comes back and wins or he just gets destroyed. And in this case, he got destroyed.
Obliterated.
Absolutely obliterated. I think that shocked a lot of people.
Totally. I was trying to think to when the last time something like this happened, where the match had to get straight up stopped because the person couldn't compete anymore. And honestly, I think the last time was WrestleMania 13.
Really? With Austin passing out?
With Austin and Bret Hart. Can you think of anything else?
No. When that happened, I was like, I can't even think of a single one. And that was him being passed out. But it's like, wasn't Zayn not completely even knocked out? The ref just stopped.
No, it was just the ref. He's
because if you pass out in a submission, they ring the bell. But this is a case where it's like Zayn was out of it, but it wasn't like he passed out and they stopped the match, which I don't think is anything I've ever seen. But nevertheless, I mean,
in that respect,
home.
It would be.
I mean, not necessarily hit home, but I mean, it hit.
Yeah,
It hit something new. An abusive household, I swear.
No, but there would be another instance of that when my crazy wrestling encyclopedia mind, and it was a WrestleMania from a very, very long time ago where it was a submission match between Bret Hart and Bob Backlund, and then somebody threw in the towel in that match.
No, it hit home when my dad used to pop up powerbomb me 5 times in a row as well. Anyway. I think it was far more effective than just a pin. You know, he got destroyed so badly that the ref just had to stop the match. He wouldn't even let him pin him because he was a fear of him getting further destroyed.
No, it was cool and it was new and it was fresh. But that being said, will it work again? Will this trick work a second time? And honestly, I think the answer to that is no.
But I think it's something you only have to pull out of the bag every once in a while. I don't think we're going to see anything like this anytime soon. I mean, you can compare it to Brock Lesnar versus Cena at SummerSlam. But obviously it was a little bit different than that. But hey, Kevin Owens is champion. Who would have saw that coming, right? Like, you know, it usually takes a while for a guy to get the NXT title, and NXT championships don't change hands very often, especially this quickly. So any last thoughts on Rival and Owens as champion?
No, it's cool. It's cool to see that, Owens is champion. I don't think it's the end of Zayn versus Owens. Maybe it'll lead to something at WrestleMania. You never know.
We'll see.
But I'm looking forward to the future. As everybody says, the future looks bright, Mago.
Absolutely. I mean, it'll be interesting to see Owens, so new to NXT, already champion, and how he's going to carry the title and lead the show. But anyway, we got to get into our Fastlane predictions, because Fastlane is this Sunday, and Vin Diesel is ready for his favorite new pay-per-view. So let's get right into it. Hit the music. Alright, first match for the Divas Championship. We have champion Nikki Bella versus Paige. Keith, who will win?
I am going with Nikki Bella in this one. I think they're going to save the title change for WrestleMania, personally. So I think the Bellas are going to do something underhanded. It's not going to be a clean finish, and Nikki walks away with the championship, leading into something at WrestleMania.
Alrighty. And you also have Juan's prediction?
Yes, but I will say it after you, good sir.
Okay. Alright, we'll do Juan's predictions last then. I'm also going to go with Nikki Bella. Doesn't really seem like they have any reason to change the title yet. They'll probably do something better for Mania.
Exactly. Now, coming in hot off the Byte That presses, we've got Mr. Juan's prediction, and he disagrees with both of us. He says Paige wins. The Divas title has faded a little, and a change would help it on the road to WrestleMania. Plus, it's Paige. So he disagrees.
Excellent prediction. All right, next up, we have for the Tag Team Championships, and me and Keith had to remember who is Tag Team Champions, which are the Usos.
It was a pretty sad moment.
Yes, which are the Usos, and they are facing Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. Keith?
I'm going to go with the Usos on this one. Same thing. Why would they change the titles now? Plus, I think this is going to be a good indicator of, is there any backlash going to happen on Cesaro? Maybe they don't win the titles because of it, but I don't think it's time for the titles to change quite yet.
I'm also going to go with the Usos. It's always safer just to err on the side of a title retaining. Kidd and Cesaro, I do really like them as a team, but it doesn't seem
they're
like...
They're great, but they're still a fresh
exactly,
team,
and it doesn't... I don't really feel like WWE is quite ready to get behind them yet, even though the fans are. So I think the Usos will remain champions.
And Juan, once again, disagrees with us. He says the Cat Sirens will win because it's Cesaro and Kidd and kittens. Also, the Usos would be more fun chasing the belts. So, we'll see.
Well, there you go. He's got somewhat of a better reason than us, but I still think we're right.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, agreed. And really, that's what matters, right?
Yes. And now I'm just kind of, this isn't really a match, but I'm just going to, kind of push it right into the middle of the card here. What?
Because it's a big thing happening at Fastlane.
This Triple H and Sting confrontation. Hey, what do you think's going to happen?
Honestly, I think Triple H is going to get the upper hand in this one. Maybe he's going to bring out the whole authority and beat Sting down, because Sting's gotten so many over on Triple H at this point. I think it's time for Sting to not look like this invincible character.
See, I'm going to go with the fact that I think they're still going to keep Sting as this invincible character, and he'll probably be in the rafters or something like that. But I don't think it's going to be much. It's just kind of going to be another mysterious thing. I don't expect Sting to talk or anything like that. But I don't know how they're going to keep it interesting. Maybe they have some imposter Stings that Triple H has to fight. But other than that, I don't see too much happening. And I don't think Juan had any comments on that because we didn't ask him. Alright, next match. I believe this match is going to happen. I'm going to assume so. Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler.
All signs lead to it, and if not this match, then at least some sort of six-man tag between Ziggler, Rowan, and Ryback versus Rollins and J&J Security.
Exactly, yeah. We don't really know quite where this is going. You would think they would probably want to get Ryback and Rowan on the card too, so just for the sake of the predictions, we'll say
predict
team
both.
Or we can just say Team Rollins or Team Ziggler. Unless you think a different one would win if the match was different.
And my answer is no. One way or another, it will be Seth Rollins winning that match.
Yeah.
In some way, shape.
Agree.
No matter what the form is,
yeah.
the outcome is exactly the same.
This match is hypothetical as of now. I'm sure SmackDown will announce something, but I'm going to go with Team Rollins.
Yeah.
Did Juan have nothing for this either?
Nope.
All right. Moving on.
So moving on.
Now we get, this is almost like a main event in and of itself here. John Cena versus Rusev.
Now this is a tough one, because every time we say, well, maybe Cena's not going to win this one, Cena wins this one. But at the same time, you kind of want to think they're saving it till WrestleMania, right? So I'm going to err on the side of a dirty finish or some sort of disqualification that leads it to a no contest, and then they build up some form of no disqualification match at WrestleMania.
Yes, I'm sticking to my guns. I made a video a couple of weeks ago about this match, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be saved for Mania. I think it's going to have much more of an impact if, instead of it being some sort of rematch or there was a DQ finish in the first confrontation, that when they fight at WrestleMania, it's the first time that they lock up for real. They're going to do kind of what they did with Ambrose and Rollins at one of those pay-per-views where they didn't actually fight when they're supposed to. It's going to be something like that with the real fight happening at Mania.
Totally. And Mr. Juan says that it will also be a DQ that leads to a WrestleMania match.
So we're all on the same page for that one.
Exactly. Now, you are forgetting a match, good sir.
Am I?
Yes, so it is, once I pull it up here quickly, you are forgetting Bad News Barrett versus Mr. Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental Championship. So, Mr. Forgetful, who do you think's going to win?
Who do I think is going to win? I still somehow see... I'm going to go with the almost like the Ryback theory of a couple years ago with Dean Ambrose, where he can't seem to win a pay-per-view match to save his life. I'm going to go with Bad News Barrett here, because it's gotten to the point where I just don't even believe Ambrose can win a big-time match anymore. So,
fair enough.
There you go.
Well, I am keeping the dream alive and going with Dean Ambrose on this one. I think it is a perfect time to put a mid-card title back on Dean Ambrose, and really, it'll make the Intercontinental title more interesting than it currently is on Bad News Barrett. Now, Juan disagrees with me and says that Bad News Barrett is going to win. It's going to be a controversial ending which opens up a multi-man match for WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship.
Alright, well, there you go. So now we are getting to...
the big one.
The big one, exactly. The hardest one to really choose. Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. Winner faces Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania.
See, this one is a very heart versus brain prediction, because my heart kind of feels like, oh, of course it's going to be some sort of dirty finish where like it leads to the triple threat match at WrestleMania. But every time something seems so obvious, that's when they pulled the swerve.
Really?
And I think so. The streak ending, the Authority losing at Survivor Series, they seemed obvious beforehand, but it ended up not happening. So Randy Orton winning Hell in a Cell,
Sure.
like all of these little things, they seemed so obvious, but they ended up not happening. So from that point, I think I'm going to go with Roman Reigns in this match. That he's going to end up beating Daniel Bryan and then moving on to the main event of WrestleMania.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I'm staying the course on the divine plan. Like I said at the Royal Rumble predictions, they're not deviating from it. Sure, they altered things to give us hope that maybe Daniel Bryan will somehow make it to that main event.
But it was just to quell us.
Yes, exactly. And then now they're going to disappoint us again. But you know what? I give them credit for giving us a little bit of hope. And you know what? It made for an awesome feud along the way. So it ends up being entertaining, so I give them credit.
And really, that's what matters at the end of the day.
There was an interesting fan theory about this match that I read on Squared Circle, reddit.com/r/Squared Circle for those interested. Someone claimed, what if Sheamus comes back and interferes in the match, thus leading to that damn match that they want to happen of Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus?
At this point, I'm convinced that match is part of the divine plan.
It really
because
is.
they're hell-bent on
Exactly.
it.
They want nothing more than to have that match a third time at WrestleMania. I have no idea why, but it's probably going to happen.
It's a way to bring Sheamus back and make it impactful, and it's a way for Daniel Bryan to lose.
Exactly.
So, and then
it's a way to get a WrestleMania match nobody wants to see.
Exactly. There is literally no better way for Sheamus to come back than that.
If they're bringing him back as a heel, he will get a ton of heat. But who knows what's going to happen? We think it's Reigns. Did you already read once? No, you didn't.
No, I did not. And he says that Roman Reigns is going to win. Why? He has no idea. He says because Samoans. That's why.
Hey,
so
it's a good enough reason as any.
Exactly. That's why Rikishi's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, what?
Samoans. It's a good reason. All right,
Indeed.
So those are our Fastlane predictions. If you want to tweet us your Fastlane predictions, our Twitter handle is at Byte That Cast. So now we got quite a few questions to get through.
Indeed,
let's just get through those. So Keith, take it away.
And if you would like to send us your question that you would like us to answer on this show, this very show that you are listening to right now, you can send them to bytethatcast@gmail.com or shoot them to us on Twitter, as Ryan said, at bytethatcast. All right, questions. So the first one comes over from the YouTube side of the fence. It was a comment left on last week's episode, and it is from Travis Hayes. He asks, what is your favorite pre-match promo? Now, I'm assuming he says like a promo.
Like a video package?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right.
Like
I'm
a video
going to
package.
assume it's a video package. Travis Hayes.
Then as will I.
I assume you're related to Rex Hayes of Fight Night, which you can catch every other
or
Thursday.
Michael P.S. Hayes.
Sure.
Freebird fame.
I'm going to go with Rex Hayes. Anyway, my favorite pre-match promo, I'm just going to go with the nostalgia factor. And I'm going to sound really cool when I choose Limp Bizkit. But I really loved the going into WrestleMania 17 Rock and Austin promo video.
That was a really good promo.
And yeah, sure, it's lame that it's Limp Bizkit and whatever, but it's very nostalgic to me. It's, the first WrestleMania I ever watched and happens to be considered one of the greatest ones. So that always will hold a near and dear place to my heart.
Seriously, if you haven't seen that, go watch that. It is easily the best thing Limp Bizkit has ever been used in ever, period. But for my answer, I'm going to go with something a little more recent. And even though it's recent, I think it's one of the most incredible things the WWE has ever done. And that is the Imagine Dragons monster promo leading up to Triple H versus Daniel Bryan at last year's WrestleMania. It was an incredible use of the song, and it was an incredible story talking about the whole Daniel Bryan versus Authority angle. It was just a heck of a video package.
No, and I like how they used his indie footage and stuff like that. It was really good.
Indeed. All right, thank you for your question, Mr. Hayes. Please let us know how Rex is doing. All right, next question from Mr. J4 Gaming on Twitter at J4GamingYT. Let's say you were a wrestler with a pranking gimmick, and this week you had to prank The Undertaker. What's your prank?
Did J4 Gaming also ask the pet question?
Yes, he is our MVP.
You know, I really appreciate these out of nowhere type questions.
I mean, we appreciate all questions, but these ones are pretty great. If you have weird out there questions, please send them to us because we love answering them.
If I was going to pull a prank on The Undertaker, I would probably do something where like a pyro misfired and lit his jacket on fire. Oh wait, somebody did that already? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a good one?
It would probably be something in regards to his entrance.
Yes.
Like the lightning bolt would strike in a bad place, or I would change the color of his smoke to pink or something like that. Or take the dark lighting and make it pink or some very un-Undertaker color.
Overly wax JBL's limousine so he slips when he walks down it. Which actually happened.
That would be great.
Anything. I would try and do anything, like you said, kind of messing with his entrance where it makes him look goofy, because Undertaker's entrance is so important and he's so good at staying in character and being intimidating that even when he was lit on fire, he still kept his cool somehow. But something to just throw him off his game when he's doing his entrance, I think. Anything like that, whether you just like pour water on him or have some goofy thing come out and just mess with him, you know, some sort of character, just, you know, some sort of way to just try and make him laugh, try and make him corpse, you know, no pun intended, you know, try and make him break character, because you never see Undertaker break character. So anything like that.
Exactly. Thank you for the question, Mr. J4
Keep
Gaming.
them coming. We love them.
Indeed. Next question from the fourth inaugural member of Byte That, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Roach McPoach, at Roach McPoach on Twitter. What kind of original gimmick or character would you guys like to see in wrestling that hasn't been done before? Hashtag Where's Ryan? Well, funny you say that. He's right here.
This week
so Ryan, what would you say?
This week it's hashtag Where's Juan?
Indeed. So?
An original character.
Well, will you think? I think my answer would be, in theory, this would be great, but I guarantee you the second it came on TV, I would hate it. And that would be a gimmick of the internet wrestling fan. just embody the smark in some form and then see what happens. Kind of like go up to John Cena and say, you know, you can't wrestle. Where's your 5 moves now, lol, or something like that. Or, hey, I'm going to go cancel this network style thing because I didn't like the way I was booked, or something like that.
I actually do have a similar answer to that, and maybe part of it's been done, I'm not sure. But I would have some sort of like CSI investigator type guy, and he would be... Basically, it would kind of be very fourth wall-y, like breaking the fourth wall-ish, where he's kind of like, you know, investigating and discovering things, and he's questioning sort of kayfabe, like the universe of like, you know, he's like, who's playing the entrance, the music? How does that guy know to play the entrance music when someone interferes or something?
Or why is there a bull on the roster and why isn't anybody called PETA about this?
Exactly. Like, why does everyone throw a clothesline at Cena after he, does the, whatever, and the 5 moves?
Or why does he still do the 5-knuckle shuffle when everybody immediately gets up afterwards?
Exactly. So I would have him questioning things like that. Sure, I don't know how that would actually work in the show, but some sort of CSI investigator type guy, I think that would actually be really entertaining.
That would. So, Mr. Roach McPoach, thank you for the question. Now, our 4th and final question comes from Mr. Cody Collier. Cody Collier, 37, on the Twitter, as Juan likes to say. Rest in peace, Juan. We miss you. Do you think if Roman has a great match with Daniel Bryan this Sunday, there's a chance that the crowd will accept him?
Where's Fastlane? Do you know?
Not a clue. So let's just vamp for a moment.
I always do this to Keith, the poor guy. Put him on the spot with information he doesn't know. But that's okay. It is
in Memphis, Tennessee, home of Jerry the King Lawler.
Absolutely,
we're in Lawler
they'll
country.
Accept him.
Exactly.
All right.
But really, that's kind of what this match is all about. Like, we all kind of agree that Roman's probably going to win this match. But if there's a person to put Roman Reigns in the ring that will not only give him a good match, but a match that will quell the masses, Daniel Bryan's totally that guy. So what more is this match supposed to be, really?
100%. And I'm not taking a knock at, Memphis, Tennessee or anything when I'm saying that they would probably accept Reigns more if he had a good match with Bryan.
But they're no Philly.
Well, I'm saying it like it's a good thing, actually, is that only the super smarky towns are just going to crap on Reigns no matter what. I don't think there's any winning them over. But I think a town that's not as uppity and, IWC smarkiness like that, is going to be more inclined to accept him. There might already be a good portion of the crowds in most cities that love Reigns. And if he has a great match with D-Bry, I 100% think that the majority will be won over. So I say yes.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions. Thank you, everybody, for submitting them. Remember, submit those at Byte That Cast or on YouTube. We will find them, and we really enjoy them. And hashtag Where's Juan?
Yeah.
Find out next week.
Hashtag Rippin' Pepperoni.
Hopefully he'll be back
next week.
All right. So it is time to close the show now. So we want to thank everyone for listening to the Byte That podcast. Before I go, always the usual plugs. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, youtube.com/Byte That Cast. Like I said, we got that roundtable up where we talked about what if the WWE Network fails. Plenty to discuss there and how that would affect pay-per-views and all that. And as well, this Thursday we have another episode of Fight Night. Me and Juan have way too much fun making those, and there'll be plenty of those to come for quite a while, so make sure to check that out. You can actually check out a playlist on our YouTube channel that has all the previous Fight Nights, and you can catch up on all of them in just over an hour, so there's no reason not to go and take a look at those. And once again, if you want to contact us through social media, you can find our Twitter at Byte That Cast, as well as our Facebook, facebook.com/Byte That Cast. And for everything else, you can go to bytethat.com. So once again, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.